Hi, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name's Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about ski prices. Are skis too expensive? Are skis too cheap? How come some skis are really expensive? How come some skis are really cheap? And why is there such a big gap between ski prices? You have a very reasonable priced on sale ski in the summer, and then if you get like a premium ski, it can be 3-4 times more expensive. So why is that? And are prices changing? We had a recent Blister panel a few months ago with the CEOs from Icelantic, a moment where they talk about ski pricing. So today we're going to be reacting. I'm going to give you, as always, my opinion on ski prices and where they're at. I always got to insert myself in there somewhere. And more than anything, just gonna talk about, are ski prices fair? Or should they rise? Should they fall? And as a consumer myself, how much of that can we really tolerate before skiing just becomes too expensive? But without further ado, let's give you some context. Let's watch this clip from Blister Ski Summit, right in the middle where they're talking about the margins. Everything's gotten so expensive and we've got these margins. Let's see what they have to say. I've watched this before, but I'm gonna react live again, just as a refresher. But before we start, please consider liking and subscribing. That's a free way to support the channel. You can also become a member down below. I have a very reasonable membership, and you can ask me for one-on-one ski advice. Or I'll have affiliate links down below. If you want to purchase any of the skis that I use, you can do that. That directly supports the channel. Unlike a lot of these other channels, I am not sponsored. I'm not paid by Icelantic, Moment, anyone. I just give you my honest opinion about the ski industry. So if you like that kind of thing, if you want to support that kind of thing in the ski industry, please consider just liking and subscribing for free, or using the affiliate links. That's also free. It just helps support the channel financially without costing you anything extra. But that's enough of that. Let's jump into the video.
You just eat margin. I mean,
the margin gets smaller for us. Back then, we didn't have any margin because we were smaller.
Yeah.
But what we have to do on our side is optimize the business and how efficient we make stuff in the factory.
Yeah.
And there's a whole side talk of automation, and man, the big European factories, those guys are getting crazy with robots, and we've got little robots. But still, it's not the answer. It's not the answer. But yeah, the Armor factories are scary. Yeah, they're scary what they can do. They just put a ski in one side, it comes out the other in the plastic. It's incredibly impressive what they're doing over there. But that's not what we're really about. But I mean, there's just so many avenues to talk about before answering your core question. The overall cost of skis has gone up, and I know when we look at the price of skis every year, we just did it to figure out next year's pricing, and skiing is such a weird thing. It's not volatile like gas prices. So we have to decide now what the skis are going to cost next year, and we don't understand all the economic factors which will happen between now and when the skis are released. So it's pretty challenging, right? Because you want to be competitive with everyone else, and you need to look at what your costs are, and some crazy thing can happen in the Middle East, and the cost of your sidewall material from Austria can go up because there's some crazy thing in the cargo shipping world. So it's...
His response is firstly kind of weirdly threatening, oh, well, we only use some robots, but eventually we can replace those people. And we need to raise our prices. What do you want, robots doing it for you? Which is so condescending and kind of tone deaf in my opinion. It's all right, if you guys had the ability to use the robots, you would. And the fact that you've already implemented some small robots means that you're prioritizing that. It just might not be in your budget. The next thing he's saying is well, we have to plan our pricing ahead in the year. We don't know what the economic circumstances are going to be. Yeah, but you know it when you're going into production. You don't produce the skis on the spot and then sell them. These skis go into production 6 months to a year ahead. What I'm hearing is we don't know what skiers are going to tolerate and what they're willing to pay. Oh, and we don't know what other people are going to price, so we don't know how out of pocket we're going to seem compared to those other ones. I mean, I don't really know much about Moment skis. I've tried a couple of them and been whatever. They're fine. They're not really on my radar. I think they're primarily more of a freestyle ski. But this seems incredibly tone deaf just compared to what people are going through with how expensive ski passes have gotten, with how expensive bindings and skis and everything and soft goods have become. Are you guys not making enough money? Like, you guys make good, healthy margins on skis. And the fact that people spend $1,000 to $1,500 just for something on their feet to go down the hill, I don't know. I'm not sure what this guy's talking about. I'm hearing a bunch of like misdirection. Oh, well, we have to pay people. It's not like we have robots like these other guys. And, oh, you know, we don't know what it's going to be. Our production's ahead of time. But you know what your costs are. You know what you have to do to strike a profit. You know what your costs are for business. You've been in the game long enough. These seem like excuses you would hear from maybe a small or new ski maker. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know these guys. I don't have any personal quarrels with them. I watched this interview, and when they're talking about the rising cost of skis, it seemed incredibly tone deaf. I mean, we are seeing, this is the worst year Vail announced for ski pass sales. This is one of the worst years for skis like not coming out of the retailers. Look at Evo, look at any of these sites. They still have 2022, 2023 skis that they can't unload. We had this big bubble of COVID where people were buying a bunch of skis, and now it seems like it's kind of popped. And I watched this interview and it just seemed like it was so tone deaf. Like they'd not been keeping up with the ski industry at all. I think people are fed up of being ringed for money at every corner. You have ski lodges that are now charging you for parking. The ski lodge food, which has always been crazy, but it kind of makes sense, right? Like, okay, I'm eating a chicken sandwich on top of a mountain. It probably costs some money to get this chicken sandwich here. But I think the overall sentiment of the ski industry is that people are sick of being rung for every single dollar at every corner and every turn they make when they're trying to go skiing. So obviously it's always been an expensive sport, but since the boon of skiing and outdoor sports that we saw in 2020 in COVID, when outdoor sports were kind of the safe thing to do, I think people are starting to realize, like, okay, well, I can go and play pickleball for $100, you know, worth of gear, and I don't have to like doing this stuff. I can go for a run on a pair of, you know, $120 shoes and go and get plenty of exercise. It doesn't have to be skiing, and I think that some of the corporate greed that's happening with skiing is coming to a head. People aren't going to buy really expensive ski passes if you never let them have affordable day tickets to see if they like it. And this same barrier to entry with skis is coming to a head, and these guys seem to totally have their heads in the sand. But I don't know. I haven't watched this in a while. Maybe my opinion will change.
It's pretty crazy. And then when winter starts, you're locked into that price all year long. You know, so it's
I know.
Yeah,
we did. We did. We changed our price. Like during COVID. I mean, what was happening month after month after month was insane. Like the increases.
Oh, it was
yeah. So we did have to change our prices mid-season, mid-production cycle. One of the years, I can't remember. It was probably 2020 or 2021, but mid-cycle we're like, we can't just eat all this, you know, it's gonna tank the business, you know, so we had to, you know, pass it on, not 100% of it, but it's like, you know, we need to increase our wholesale costs, you know, $25, which then, you know, increases the retail cost by $50 or whatever it is. No.
What? I don't understand that. You're selling too many skis because of the boon of 2020. So in order to not, what are you selling them at a loss? I don't get that. Why would that tank the business? And also, don't you forecast that ahead of time when the skis go into production, when you look at your costs? You guys aren't making these skis on the fly. You're doing a ton of production in the off season and then selling them. You sell them in like August, October, and then really most of the sales happen around Christmas. I don't get what these guys are talking about. And oh my God, we set a price and we had to live with it. We had to watch all this money go by. We could have charged more. God. Oh, we just watched this gravy train roll on by and our prices weren't as good as they could have been. Who runs these businesses? Okay, whatever. Like, I worked in the financial sector before this, so this all screams like red flags to me. Okay, anyway.
Knowing that the cost was still, you know, a $50 increase, you know, so it's like we're taking a hit, and you know the retailer was kind of like where it was built into, like they didn't really take a hit, but yeah, it's challenging. I also think that everything's resetting right now, like prices in general, like it's not going back down, you know.
What is this resentment for the retailer? Oh, well, the retailers don't have to eat any of these price changes or any of these extra costs. Yeah, they're the retailers. They're the ones putting it in people's hands. Do you think people are buying Icelantic skis if they're not at REI or Evo? Huh? No, I mean, pick a lane. Do you want to be in big box stores and selling high volumes, or do you want to be a specialty brand like Meyer, which I have a ton of respect for? Or, you know, even Peak Skis sells stuff direct to consumer. So which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the big honcho that sells high volume, or you want to sell these direct to consumer? Can you even buy Icelantic skis direct to consumer? Okay, you can. So, okay, you can buy them direct to consumer. Also, the graphics look a lot like the Meyer graphics, except I kind of like the Meyer graphics better for the Pioneer. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Icelantic, if you want to sell only direct to consumer, just do that. But you wanted to get into the box stores, you wanted to get into the online retailers to sell high volumes. Yeah, the retailer isn't going to eat your margin difference. They're not going to eat your extra costs. You wanted that kind of volume, and that's the deal you made. And so what? What are those retailers doing? They're not going to take money out of their own pockets after you already made a deal with them. What kind of why would they do that? This seems like having your cake and wanting to eat it too. It honestly does. Like, oh, well, we saw in 2020 there was a big demand for skiers, and we had increasing production costs, and we didn't forecast or buy any of it in advance or do enough of it in-house. Remember, you guys can make this stuff in-house for a lot of it. So because we didn't plan, we couldn't on the fly change our ski prices because Evo and REI weren't going to do that. Well, yeah, they already have the skis. Oh, and then, well, we don't want those retailers to sell the skis for more than we have it on our own site. It's like this crazy mental gymnastics of being upset for just being for having a level of business incompetence. You go into production and you should have bought your goods ahead of time, built it out. I used to work in warehousing and inventory management, so I know how a lot of this stuff works. You go into production, typically the manufacturer then sends it to the warehouse and then it gets sent out. With these guys, they're in Evo and REI, so that's a different warehouse. But you planned all of that ahead of time. You had a business plan. The fact that you're having resentment over watching a huge influx of skis and you didn't produce enough, it's that's a hard cheese sandwich. You just got to eat that. And then expecting that you're going to be able to raise prices. And on the fly, the retailers don't want to. Good. That's because there's they have consumer protections and their own margins to look after. Also, it's worth pointing out, since this interview 3 months ago, their prices went up for the 23-24, so a ski that is now 2 years old, from $879 down to $450. I guess those price increases really didn't sit with people as well as they thought, because they have every size available and they have not sold them. This is what I'm talking about. You guys talk about raising prices, but then you want your loyal skiers to get on it. And then you don't send skis to small reviewers like me, which now I'm the largest independent reviewer of skis out there. So you guys aren't willing to send skis that way, but you want people to pay full price. It honestly just reeks of corporate greed. I'm so sick of this. This idea that we're just gonna upcharge and people will pay whatever. And then suddenly everyone's bought their skis and doesn't need skis anymore. And you're like, well, wait, where'd everybody go? Oh, maybe we don't need to sell for $879. Maybe we could sell for $450. Sorry. Also, if you can sell a ski for $450, that means that your production cost was nowhere near $879. That's the crazy thing. Every off-season, skis go for half price. That's why I respect brands like Head and Solomon, because you know what? The prices don't change that much. It's okay, it's a couple $100s off. Let's move inventory. It's not cut in half like this. I don't know. I'm sure I'm stepping on a million toes, but I don't care. I'm here to tell the truth. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to sell you product. I'm here to tell you the truth and give my honest opinion. So Icelantic, I don't know, you guys can eat a hard cheese sandwich. Yeah, people didn't go for your $900 all mountain ski. They're going for they might take it for $450. Okay. All right, let's keep going with Moment and Icelantics. Just digging themselves a ditch. Digging themselves into a grave? I don't know. I'm sure those companies will both be fine, but I found this interview to be really, really tone deaf with how expensive everything's gotten. I'm fine with okay, we need to charge this amount because we need to pay people a fair and living salary, but I don't see any like promises of that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, these skis are gonna be made entirely ethically. This is what we pay. We have a base minimum wage for our workers, and we wanna make sure everyone's living a good life. If you said something like that, I'd be totally on board. Like, yep, they have to sell for this much. But they've just kind of like taken this weird backhanded way of saying like, well, we gotta make money and we gotta sell this and we've been eating our margins and all this. It's like, yeah, but you set the price initially. Isn't that what you guys want in this like capitalism system where you have the silent hand of the market? Isn't that what you signed up for? And now complaining because like, well, other people are charging more, we have to too, and ski prices haven't changed that much. Oh, anyway, I'll let them speak for themselves.
It's like, it's definitely in turmoil right now, but I think once it resettles on some levels, you know, I think there's been some shock with the cost of skis going up over the last couple of years, but I think it's going to normalize on some levels. Like, I hope it does, but yeah, it's challenging, and it is such a
Is it going to normalize, or are people just going to get used to it? Oh, we're boiling the water and, you know, people are having a hard time with it, but eventually they'll get used to the water. It's like the frog in the boiling water analogy. I think that there will always be a handful of people who are willing to pay whatever for skis. I mean, you see that with Bomber selling skis for $1,300, $1,400. You see that with some of those specialty skis that Volkel had out. There's always a market for those top-end people who want to just feel like what they own is better than everyone else. You see it with like soft goods, right? With those Q's jackets for, you know, $1,400, whatever. There's always a market for it, but it's a small market and not everybody is going to sell to those handful of premium people. And what's happening is you guys want everyone to pay that, and I don't think everybody has the budget for that. Or there are so many other good skis that are household names that people can rely on that aren't doing that you guys are kind of dreaming. Like, maybe you have enough of a fan base that people will pay that much, but I've never really like heard of Icelantic. I had a friend who had a pair, and that's how I heard about them. Or same for like Moment skis. Like, you guys don't have a big enough fan base that people know they like them, so you need retailers or local shops to get people on them in the first place, and then expecting that you're going to be able to charge top dollar. I mean, look at your inventory now. This is like, you might as well cue the Curb Your Enthusiasm. Let's look at their other skis. Yeah, all of their skis are $450. They didn't sell any of them. You guys are so worried about how much money you can make off of people, you weren't concerned enough about whether or not people liked your skis. Whether or not you could actually get the skis in front of people. It just, I don't know, it seems short-sighted.
Unique industry, because there's really not another industry that I can think of that is met with so much resistance. And I'm not even technically from the consumer, but from dealers, consumer, and even just internally, like, wow. You know, I have these thresholds in my head, like, oh, over $800, that's crazy. Now it's like, okay, over $900 is crazy, and and that's just continuing to go up. So
I agree with that.
It's gonna normalize, yeah.
That's the scary thing too, like, because like when we look at the pricing and what it costs to make something, I just know looking at the cost of the ski is like what I want it to cost and the accessibility that I want of the product, but I also need to run a business.
Yeah.
But my personal perception has changed. Like, at our factory, we have a factory store. And a couple years ago, like, the price of the skis and bindings have gone up a little bit, maybe $75 in the last couple of years since COVID. But I remember before all these big price increases, I would go down and help a customer and sell them a pair of skis with like Look Pivot 15s on them, check them out, and it was like $1,400. And I would be like afraid to say the number because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so much money. But now when I go to the factory store and I check someone out, I'm like, that's a good deal. Like, just of all the other bills I've had to pay, they're like, you get a screaming deal here, and that's.
But again, we're not hearing about like, oh, well, we can finally pay our workers more, or where we are based out of in Colorado has gone expensive, so we can finally pay the people working in our shops more. No, all I'm hearing is like, well, my costs have gone up, so I can finally recoup some of that with a $1,400 setup. Secondly, let's talk about the $1,400 setup. Okay, you buy a pair of skis with Look bindings. Pivot bindings are $400, so you're sitting at a $1,000 ski. One thing both of these guys are doing is heavily avoiding the word $1,000 skis. They go, oh, if you heard them earlier, oh, it's $900 skis and now it's a little bit more. They will do anything to avoid talking about $1,000 skis, but make no mistake, that is where we're headed. $1,000 for just skis. Do you remember when skis like came with bindings? In fact, a lot of the $1,000 skis you buy now come with bindings. I can understand raising the price if you need to, but I'm not hearing any good reason other than like, oh, well, our prices have kind of gone up. Okay, then how were you in business this last year? Right? Like, that's the stuff that doesn't make any sense to me. I get if your production costs go up, but you have to be able to insulate yourself with buying in bulk and buying ahead. Do you guys really not buy your material ahead of time? Like, I get it for small ski makers that they kind of need to do that because your order volume can fluctuate wildly. But a lot of these people, when they're selling to big retailers, they have enough volume to buy in bulk and have excess materials so they can go into production when they need to. These just sound like poorly run businesses. Secondly, the $1,400 thing when you're selling to someone. I remember that. I used to work at a shop out in New Hampshire, and I can remember helping a guy buy skis and bindings and the whole shebang, and it ended up being like $850. But that was the ski he wanted. That was everything that kind of lined up for him, and for him, it was value. I don't think that skiers are as concerned about the price as much as they are value. Skis don't last that long. They're taking on snow and rocks. Depending on your ski area, if the grooming's good or if the snow is good, kind of indicates how beat up they get. If you have a mountain that's really lazy with its grooming, a lot of times like you're just kind of damaging the skis more. I think that it's just a product that we use that I love. I love skis. I love the differences in skis, but we need to feel like we're getting value out of our product. I actually have come around on Stokely skis, which are very expensive, but I feel like if you're looking for a ski that's damp without being deaf, that ski does the best job of it. Now, would I personally recommend that to like my kids or somebody who's going off trail? No, they don't need it. That's not what they care about. But for people who care about dampness without also like having a really smooth ride, that's valuable. I think what these guys are missing is, if you're gonna raise the price, explain to the consumer what the added value is. Is the added value we can pay the people who work here a livable wage and we're building a good culture? Great, that's value to me. To me, hearing that, or hey, we're not gonna have anything made in sweatshops, we're really like ethically sourcing our material. Great, that to me has a value. You know, I buy Patagonia stuff. It's more expensive and I buy it used and then repair it. But to me, it's valuable that I can repair something and not put it in a landfill. So anyway, that's, I don't know, this idea that like we're just gonna raise up costs because my electric bill went up is total nonsense. It's totally just like misdirecting consumers to looking the other way while they upcharge. It might be rooted in something, but you have to be able to communicate it as value for the consumer. Because I don't know, for me as somebody who recommends products and tests products, that's what matters at the end of the day. Anyway, I think that's gonna wrap it up. I think that's enough from these guys, the CEOs of Moment and Icelantic. To be honest, them not seeing that people are really struggling to keep doing this hobby and just talking about like, yeah, we're just gonna raise the prices. Isn't it crazy the skis are expensive? And you know, we have these extra costs and we had to watch money go by in 2020. So now it's our turn to make money. It's so tone deaf to what's going on. It's so tone deaf to where the general market is. And now they've kind of got their foot in their mouth when you look at the price on their websites for what they're selling skis for. They didn't go for $880. Now they're $450. Maybe they learned something going into next year, but we are seeing across the board skis are not selling that well. People are not buying new skis because they bought a bunch of skis during that big COVID bubble, and now their skis are lasting for a few years like they're supposed to. So I don't know. These guys need to pull their heads out of their butts. They're just being so tone deaf to like what people are going through. You know, you want consumers to buy more skis, but wages haven't really gone up that much in the last couple of years. People will bend over backwards to ski. I mean, everybody just loves it. They love doing it and they will go out and buy skis that feel good and make them happy. But you have to, for the consumer, provide some level of value to them other than just kind of shrugging your shoulders and being like, well, that's just the way it is now. And it's like, okay, well, people aren't making more money. So the consumers have kind of shrugged their shoulders back at Icelantic and Moment and said, okay, well, we're not buying your products then. And now you've got skis sitting on the shelves. When you start to see 2022, 2023 skis like Icelantic has just sitting there, that's when you start to see skis sold at a loss. You guys shouldn't have been so tone deaf to this. And I don't know, now you've got a bunch of skis you need to sit on. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. Maybe I'm off base. I don't really know anything about Icelantic and Moment. They don't work with me. They don't reply to emails. I'd love to review their skis based on the merit, but I will say that Blister interview struck me just really put a sour taste in my mouth. So anyway, that's the end of the video. If you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. That really helps the channel out long term. But more than anything, just thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.